Good afternoon, everyone. Tractor Man 44 here. Um, you know, every now and then, a little good luck befalls on a particular individual, and you don't know why. It sure ain't because you've been paying the preacher a whole bunch on Sunday or anything like that, but sometimes just good things happen. Now, I got an old, about 1909 or something, single cylinder Galloway 5 horsepower engine that I picked up here a few years back. And I was over at my brother, who's a few years older than myself. I was over at his house today and was talking about how I'd like to get that old engine fired up. And I was looking for a set of wheels, to make a channel iron or an angle iron or whatever framework for it, because that engine's pretty heavy. It's 800, 900 pounds, might even be 1,000 pounds, I don't know. Pretty hefty old thing. But at any rate, I was telling my brother I was looking for some flat wheels. He said, well, hey, come back in the woods. And then he started telling me a story about that old Fairbanks and Morse 15 horse we had out on the home place that they actually busted up whenever I was a kid. He still remembers it running and everything, and he remembers the day that they busted all up for scrap. We get coming into the modern age with modern tractors and all that thing. Back in the 40s and the late 30s and early 40s and stuff like that, they didn't need them old one-cylinder engines anymore. So they took them to the local salvage yard, saved the flywheels for wheel weights for the farm tractors. But at any rate, we walked back in the woods back here up at his house, and I had no idea he had this sitting back there. But what you see here, some people would consider it junk, and I guess maybe it could very well be junk. I don't know, but I'm going to make something out of it. You see those four flat wheels and these gnarly-looking channel irons here. This is the actual framework off of my grandfather and subsequently my dad and uncles. 15 horsepower, one-cylinder make and break engine. I don't know. I'd have to check with him what year it was purchased, but it had to have been in the teens or possibly in the 20s. But at any rate, whenever we got rid of the farm back in the early 80s, he packed up some of this stuff and brought it out to his place, and it's been sitting out there kind of rusting down in the woods, ever since. I'm going to have to apologize beforehand on this video because it's very difficult to do. I am not very, very adept at this. But at any rate, I got that old engine. It's going to mount right on here just as fine and dandy as could be. I'm going to have to, put some new channel iron and stuff on it. But here's a real cool thing. This right here is actually the bolster. If you know anything about wagons or whatever, the bolster is the part that allows the front wheel or the tongue to turn and change directions for the full wheel device. It'll rock back and forth like this whenever I get it freed up. This here being the pivot point, you can see it'll actually rock back and forth here, and then of course the actual bolster part will pivot right here and it will turn this direction, and as you go over uneven territory, it'll flip and flop like that. It's going to take a little bit of work. It'll have to go into the electrolysis tank and maybe a little soaking in oil, diesel fuel, little heat, whatever, but I'll make that thing work somehow or another, without a doubt. But at any rate, that was my good fortune for the day, is coming across a set of these old trucks that we actually had on the farm whenever I was a kid. Now, another good thing, he said a cousin of ours had given him this engine for me. It's a Fairbanks and Morse Z. It's pretty much a parts engine. I've got one very similar to it. I've got a couple of other ones too, but I don't know that I will ever get this particular one running. But it may come out handy for some parts. And then one other thing that is just so freaking cool, I just can't get over it, is this old drill press. It used to operate off of a line shaft. I think my brother actually converted it for use with a 4-speed transmission out of an old truck. And so he's got a back in the back, he's got a framework made for an electric motor. The electric motor, of course, turns that variable sheave you see back there. There's like a 2-belt sheave, actually has variable pitch on it. But that'll turn that, which in turn turns the 4-speed transmission. You can put that in whatever gear you want to get the desired arbor speed. And it's got a number 2 taper on the so at any rate, it's going to be a pretty cool thing. But at any rate, that is the end of my good fortune for the day. I am just tickled to death. I just could not imagine stumbling across a set of those wheels with the actual old truck. That's what they call these things, as trucks. From the old Fairbanks Morse engine out there. So very good fortune. I am just tickled to death. Now it's going to be a little while before we get around to it, Things kind of move at a snail's pace with a broken back, just have a ton of things to do, and some things get a higher priority than others, and sometimes when I get excited about something, that it gets shoved up the priority list and I get hot on it. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but it will be sooner or later. More than likely later, more than sooner. But I'm just so excited about it, I just had to share it with everybody. Hey man, it's Tractor Man 44, and man, I'm out of here.